Hey boys and girls, and welcome to shorter attention what I was doing and things like that. Hopefully it helps you out, you know, hopefully. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another exciting episode of Storytime with Uncle Mason. I hope everybody had a great, safe weekend. So last time we left off with an overview of Chapter 5, How Can I Stand It? And basically Chapter 5 is just about grief. Now, to combat grief, first we need to know what it is. And so that's what I'm going to explain today. I'm going to talk about understanding grief, the purpose of grief, and then what normal grief looks like. And then we'll go later on into how you can fight it and how you can get back to being a normal person. But before I do that, of course, we got to talk about the tried and true Honor 22. This Friday, we're going to be at Phil Harburger Park at 6:30 in the afternoon. We're doing a little trail run there. When I say we, I mean EJ is going to be there. I've got a orientation with the Missions Continues program this weekend, so I'm pretty booked there. Also, this Saturday, we're having our makeup date for the last few games of our Tournament of Heroes. It's going to be at Tony Martinez Park at 12. We already have a ton of volunteers, so if you guys want to come out and just support us, that'd be fantastic too. We still have t-shirts for sale. We have the blue Tournament of Heroes t-shirt. Got all the nice sponsors and the people we donated to on the back. Form-fitting, very sexy. And speaking of sexy, we also have the standard red. Is also form-fitting, very sexy. Comes in all shapes and sizes, and those, of course, are both $15 a piece. Okay. Talking about grief, the first thing we need to do is understand grief. So I'm going to read you guys a couple quotes from the book here. So basically, according to the book, understanding grief is basically, though your body is still functioning, there may be parts of your being that feel real dead, and it feels like they were killed violently. The gravestone has PTSD on it, and you are experiencing your season in the grave right now. Grief is a normal process of natural emotions and feelings which are uniquely experienced after any loss of any relationship. And finally, grief is normal. Now, there's a part on here that's called Name Your Loss, and basically says, you have suffered many losses throughout your life, as we all have, but your time in combat or trauma likely brought about some new lifetime blows which you may have found difficult to deal with. In step 4, you invested some hard work putting into words what happened to you. Remember, that was when we talked about your life before your trauma, during your trauma, and after your trauma. For this exercise, narrow your focus a bit and write about what you lost specifically. You can write about any physical injuries that result in lost capabilities, lost friends, ambitions, dreams, self-identity, faith, love, whatever comes to mind. By naming your loss, you'll be better able to accomplish the difficult work of grieving over it. So now the purpose of grief. According to the book, God built the grief response into us for the purpose of mentally, emotionally, and spiritually processing loss-producing events, integrating those events into our altar world, and helping us move on to a state of greater strength, resourcefulness, resilience, and faith. Tears are a way God has provided for sadness to leave our body. Now, when we grieve, we're authentically engaging the emotions that come with loss rather than stuffing or denying them, as many grief experts say. You can't heal what you can't feel. We're protesting the injustice of the loss, which we are truly convinced of, rather than acting like it was okay with us. We're expressing that we deeply wish that the loss never occurred, rather than minimizing it. We're facing the devastating impact of the loss head-on, absorbing it, and eventually mastering it, rather than running from it, deflecting it, or pretending it didn't happen, only to have its effect hit us again and again. We are allowing our right brain to replay the tapes of our traumatic episodic memories in a safe environment, thereby robbing them of their terror and integrating them into our rebuilding life. And finally, we're inviting Jesus to enter the dark forest of our pain, experience it with us, comfort us in the midst of it, and walk us out the other side of it, rather than sitting passively alone and paralyzed at the edge. Now, when we refuse to grieve, unresolved grief has been found to be a factor in the development of a wide range of psychological problems, including outbursts of rage, restlessness, depression, addiction, compulsion, anxiety, and panic disorders. Unexpressed grief has been linked to the development of worsening or medical problems such as diabetes, heart disease, hypertension, cancer, asthma, and a variety of allergies, rashes, aches, and pains. We are at odds with our body's built-in psychological process to deal with a traumatic event, and finally, we are at odds with God's spiritual intentions to meet us in the midst of the fire of our trauma, of missing out on His plan to deepen our faith and strengthen our relationship with Him. So that's basically the difference of what happens when you grieve and when you don't grieve, the things that happen to your body physically, mentally, and spiritually. Now, what you can expect in a normal grief, I have a quote here. It's called The Essence of Fear by C.S. Lewis. Basically, he says, grief still feels like fear, perhaps more strictly like suspense, or like waiting, just hanging up waiting for something to happen. It gives life a permanently provisional feeling. It doesn't seem worth starting anything. I can't settle down, I yawn, I fidget, I smoke too much. Up until this, I always had too little time. Now there's nothing but time. Always pure time, empty and successive. So, when we talk about normal grief, there are a list of symptoms that came with it that I listed out here. So let me go ahead and read those off to you. So, normal grief symptoms look something like fear, rage, weeping, guilt, loneliness, blaming, running away, numbing, loss of appetite, frustrated, no desire to talk, emotionally overloaded, loss of sex drive, dehydration, memory lags, mental short circuits, unexplained aches and pains, sleepiness, fatigue, lethargy, sleeplessness, nightmares, hyperactivity, feeling abandoned, overly talkative, feeling out of control, and finally no feelings at all. Now, anybody who has ever had a bad breakup has probably experienced one or more of these symptoms. Now, how did you get over it? Well, quite honestly, you got back out there and you dated again. Well, that's what I'm trying to get to whenever we're talking about these symptoms. I'm trying to get you to get back out there with your life and live your life without having your trauma control it. So that is the overview there of the different processes of grief. You know, understanding grief, the purpose of grief, and normal grief. Now, the big thing I want to emphasize here is that grief is normal. Every single person in the history of this planet has experienced some sort of trauma at some level that they have had a level of grief there. So if you're in the process of grieving now and you don't want to deal with it, I want you to know that it's normal and it takes time to get over it. The big quote there is, you know, time is the healer of all wounds. Now, it's not going to happen overnight, but if you continuously try to fight it and combat it, eventually you'll be able to grieve fully and in a healthy manner to where you can move past whatever trauma you're grieving over. So that's it for that. I'm going to explain a little bit more later on about ways you can fight grief, how to healthily grieve, and some of the unhealthy things to avoid when you grieve. But in the meantime, as always, let's go ahead and knock out some push-ups, shall we? So yeah, guys, that's it. I'm probably going to come out with another video before I end the class today. So in the meantime, y'all continue to have a great day, and I will see you all later.